Hello, America. I'm Mark Levin, and this is Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday. Thank you for being here. Two great guests, General Jack Keane and Leo Terrell. But before we get to them, Ivy League schools, once again, the Hitler Youth are on the march. The Marxist Islamists. It's not by accident. It's well organized. Many of the individuals who are involved are foreign individuals. Obviously, some are born in the United States as well. And this is taking place not by accident, but by organization. It's being funded, and it's being supported by the hard left and foreign governments and organizations in our country that are organizations that are related to terrorist organizations and terrorist states. And so we're going to do some more focusing on this, because if I don't, who the hell will? So, first of all, let's take a little look at what just took place at Barnard College in New York. Go.
No peace! No justice! No peace! Racist asshole!
Here they are. They've taken over an area in the school. You can see almost all of them have covered their faces.
There's an active bomb threat. You must clear the courtyard.
They are preventing students, especially Jewish students, from attending class.
Oh my God.
You can see they're getting physical, they're getting violent. Looks like the Middle East, doesn't it, America? All right, that's enough. Now, these are American universities. That's not the American culture you're seeing. Oh, it's free speech. We know what free speech is. Freedom of association, we know what that is too. Intimidating people, blocking people, physically touching people, that's not free speech. It never has been. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's many things that can be done, and this administration is focusing on all of them. Deporting foreign college students in the U.S. who are here on a visa after they are found to openly advocated for Hamas or another U.S. designated terror group, or after they participated in an unauthorized campus protest and were suspended, expelled, or jailed. Out. That's up to DHS working with DOJ. Pursue federal prosecutions of demonstrators who block synagogue entrances or disrupt Jewish speakers at events. Charge protest leaders and nonprofits that aid in fundraising for protest groups with failing to register with the United States Department of Justice as an agent of a foreign principal, FARA. You've heard of that law before. Open investigations into protest leaders who are in direct contact with U.S. designated terror groups or front groups while advocating on their behalf. Those are just a handful of things that can be done. What else? As our friends at Heritage pointed out several years ago, Federal Anti-Riot Act, 18 U.S.C. Section 2101, allows the federal government to go after anyone who travels in interstate, I quote, or foreign commerce, or who uses any facility of interstate or foreign commerce, including but not limited to the mail, telegraph, telephone, radio, television, to incite a riot or to organize, promote, or encourage participation in or carry on a riot, or to commit any act of violence in furtherance of a riot. So anyone who travels from outside the state or uses his phone or his computer with the specific intent to instigate and participate in riots is violating federal law. It also applies to those who aid or abet anyone else to carry out such acts. Someone found guilty can be fined and imprisoned for up to 5 years or both for each violation. 18 U.S.C. Section 241 prohibits conspiracies to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in the exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States. It also prohibits individuals from going in disguise on the highway or on the premises of another with intent to prevent or hinder his free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege so secured, like wearing masks. Violating this statute is punishable by up to 10 years in federal prison. By the way, where's Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York? Does she show up at these events? Does she warn these thugs, these anti-Semites, these Jew haters? Where is she? Busy chasing Donald Trump? She's a fraud and a phony. Fox Business. Billions of American taxpayer dollars have helped fund many of the colleges and universities where anti-Israel agitators recently have occupied campuses. A stunning sum that has led numerous politicians to call for an end to federal cash for schools that allow the encampments to persist. And Donald Trump has said this. We got to cut off federal funds. And the new Secretary of Education, it seems to me, will need to work with the DOJ and do exactly that. More than $5 billion worth of taxpayer funds were given to Ivy League schools through sponsorships, grants, and contracts during fiscal 2023 alone. Another $2.1 billion also made its way to other prominent schools that have had anti-Israel rallies of late. The Ivy League schools, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Columbia, University of Pennsylvania, Brown, Dartmouth, Cornell, have been the scenes of some of the most high-profile anti-Israel unrest last year. But more of it's going on now. In 2023, Harvard received approximately $676 million from you. Princeton received $403 million. Why are they receiving this anyway? They have these massive funds where people donate. They go untaxed. They have massive endowments worth billions and billions of dollars, particularly the Ivy League schools. Why are we giving them any money? Yale received approximately $776.8 million. Columbia, which is really 0.0, received approximately $1.2 billion. Penn received approximately $955.6 million. Brown received $173.7 million. Dartmouth received $133 million. Cornell received another $736.3 million. These 8 Ivy League schools, as well as Northwestern University and Stanford University, received $33 billion worth of federal contracts and grants since 2018, averaging $6.6 billion annually, an Open the Book study found the other year. The same 10 schools also reaped another $12 billion in special tax treatment benefits on the growth of their massive endowment gains, according to the report, which was released in November. Why aren't those endowments taxed? In fact, why don't they use their endowments? What are they collecting them for? In addition to the Ivy League schools, several other colleges have garnered attention for anti-Israel unrest. It's Jewish hate unrest. It's anti-Semitism. These are Islamists and Marxists. Islamists and Marxists, including UC Berkeley, New York University, UT Austin, George Washington University also received millions of federal funding. As they looked at fiscal year 2023, UC Berkeley received more than $451 million. NYU received more than $805 million. UT Austin received roughly $645 million. And GWU received more than $200 million. Wow. I wonder if the federal judges out there in the U.S. Supreme Court think this is okay. Maybe they'll withhold the funding. So stupid. Network Contagion Research Institute, a neutral organization. We explored links between different funding sources. I can't read the whole report. I want to read the relevant parts. And the deterioration of free speech and academic freedom and the presence of anti-Semitism. 349 colleges and universities received a combined total of almost $18 billion from foreign sources between 2014 and 2019, over 5 years. They also found that higher levels of deplatforming and speech punishment occurred on campuses that received funding from member states of the International Organization of Islamic Cooperation and from other authoritarian regimes. Foreign funding, they said, especially when provided either by member countries of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation or by authoritarian countries, was associated with elevated levels of campus anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism incidents. Anti-Semitism incidents on campuses are associated with the forecast local anti-Semitic incidents across the country. You can read it yourself. It's publicly available. There's other great reports out there, studies done by the Heritage Foundation, by the George Washington University Project on Extremism. They're all out there for the whole world to read. But you know the major funder of these efforts? There's Iran, there's Communist China, there's Saudi Arabia. You know what the major one is? Qatar. Gee, I thought Qatar was our friend. People at high levels have relationships with Qatar. They've praised Qatar. Qatar, the country that up till a few months ago was funding Hamas to the tune of $1.8 billion over the years. The country that gave safe haven to the billionaire leaders of Hamas, some 5 of them, and protected them up to a few months ago. Qatar. Mosaic writes, autocratic Middle Eastern regimes, organizations, foundations, and affiliated private corporations have funneled billions of dollars of unreported funding to American universities in order to demonize Israel on campus. And I might add, demonize the United States, with the bulk of all Middle Eastern donations emanating from Qatar donors, 75%, and the Qatar Foundation, accounting for virtually all the donations from Qatar. These funds significantly impact attitudes, anti-Semitic culture, and the activities and movement to boycott and divest from and sanction Israel, the BDS movement. Our research has found a correlation between the funding of universities by Qatar and the Gulf states and the presence of groups such as Students for Justice in Palestine, a radical pro-terrorist front group, in a campus environment that fosters an anti-Semitic atmosphere, aggression toward Jews and supporters of Israel. Qatar has long been an important source of funds for the Palestinian terror organization Hamas and has forged relationship with Islamist groups from the Muslim Brotherhood to the Taliban. This from the Free Press, Eli Lake, a couple years back. Right now, senior leaders of Hamas, the perpetrators of the worst atrocity against Jews since the Holocaust, are huddled in Qatar. They've been there for years. But American foreign policy has turned a blind eye. Why? One reason might be that for the last 25 years, this small, energy-rich state has pumped billions into America to purchase influence and good favor. The Qataris have spent their lavish fortune at American law firms on lobbying contracts with former senior officials and on junkets and partnerships with big media companies. The biggest recipients of Qatar largesse, though, have been major universities and think tanks. The numbers are staggering. According to a 2022 study from the National Association of Scholars, there's tons of reports on this. Qatar today is the largest foreign donor to American universities. Remember, this is 2 years old. The study found from the National Association that the largest recipients are some of America's most prestigious universities of higher learning. These schools have partnered with the regime to build campuses in Doha's education city. Since 1997, Qatar has donated more than $103 million to Virginia Commonwealth University for a fine arts campus. Again, this is 2 years old. Since 2001, Qatar has donated $1.8 billion to Cornell for a medical school. Since 2003, Qatar has donated nearly $700 million to Texas A&M for an engineering campus. Since 2004, Qatar has donated $740 million to Carnegie Mellon University for a computer science campus. Since 2005, Qatar has donated $760 million to Georgetown University for a school of politics. Qatar has donated nearly $602 million since 2008 to Northwestern University for a school of journalism. And I was at Johns Hopkins Medical some time ago, and I see they built a whole wing there, too. One might expect that scholarly institutions that have benefited from this autocracy's money would rethink their partnership if the Qatar's foreign minister said that Israel alone is responsible for October 7 and for the pogrom that perpetrated by Hamas terrorists, or if the Qatar's prime minister declined to close the office Hamas maintains at its capital until Donald Trump was elected. Washington Free Beacon. Qatar has given or contracted more than $5.6 billion to 61 American schools since 2007. It goes through which these schools are. At great detail, from November 2007 to October 2023, Qatar made 1,116 donations to American universities, totaling Almost $6 billion, record shows. This has led to accusation that Doha is using the influence with the country's top schools to mainstream propaganda that portrays Israel in a negative light. You don't say. Newsweek. Between 1986 and 2018, Middle Eastern countries donated more than $6.6 billion. So I'm not even counting the last 7 years to U.S. universities. Reported less than $3.6 billion to the federal government. They have an obligation under federal law to report the Department of Education how much money they're getting from foreign governments, which foreign governments, and what it's being used for. Billions of dollars have not been reported. Moreover, as I mentioned earlier, we have FARA. That is, if you are taking money from a foreign government, and this is a very broad law, and if the people in your college or universities are working with a foreign government, and you are promoting them or they are promoting you, you have an obligation to report and to sign up as a foreign agent. Virtually none of these schools have done it. The bulk of Middle Eastern donations coming into the United States emanates from Qatar. Well, the Qatar Foundation accounts for virtually all the donations from Qatar. They have a significant impact on universities, especially with regard to attitudes toward Israel. And it goes on and on and on. Now, what the hell are we going to do about Qatar? Continue playing nice with them? I think we need to have a full list of all the people in the House and the Senate who have any relationships to Qatar. I think we need to have a full list of all the former Senate and House members who are now lobbyists working at various law firms who are on the take from Qatar. We need to have a full list of people in the bureaucracy, in the executive branch, a full list, so we all know who's doing what, when, where, and how. And I want to thank Donald Trump because he's doing more, he's pushing harder to stamp out anti-Semitism on our college campuses, against Jews in the streets and in synagogues, than any president in American history. And he has told every element of the federal government, you have 60 days, 60 days isn't up yet, to figure out a maximum plan to stamp out anti-Semitism, to deport people who are here who are promoting anti-Semitism, to get federal funds out of these colleges and universities that aren't doing anything about anti-Semitism, and to protect the rights of Jewish students who are going to colleges and universities. Because let me tell you something. It starts with the Jews, but it never ends there. It never ends there. And if we weren't talking about Jews, we were talking about some other ethnic or religious group, we'd be hearing a lot more from our Democrat Party friends, wouldn't we? Their silence is deafening. Isn't it, Letitia James? I'll be right back.